WCW Monday Nitro, March 5th, 2001. And yes, Brian, after this show, there's only 3 episodes to go.
Oh, man. And actually, there was stuff I liked on this show. Not all of it.
There was stuff I hated on this show.
There was stuff I liked.
There was... Well, we'll get into it. Mm-hmm. Rick Steiner's in the ring as the show begins, cutting a promo on Booker T. Booker responds, vows to win the U.S. title, and so the match begins. It's Booker T versus Rick Steiner for the U.S. title. As we are told, the referee is Scott James. He can't be Scott Armstrong. Has to use his real name here as a referee. Gotta have credibility. So, Steiner goes up top of the Bulldog.
Talk about the random promo by Rick Steiner.
I did. Do you want to talk about it more?
They just babbled on forever, and they started the show in the middle of a Rick Steiner promo.
Where were you when I talked about this?
I was getting the music, dude. I got a lot of shit I got to do here. I run the board. I run all this stuff.
Right.
You want to run the fucking music?
It'd be better.
You don't even know what song it is. What song is it on here? What game loop is it? There's 20 of them. Yes.
It doesn't matter. Pick one.
No, it doesn't matter. It's the same song every week.
It doesn't have to be. It can be any song you want.
So, yeah, sometimes I'm doing some shit here, Vinny. I don't ignore you because you suck. I ignore you because I'm doing other shit. And I pay attention. I'm like, I was only looking at that for 2 seconds. Could he really have talked about Rick Steiner's opening promo?
I mean, Daddy, you're
I said all I had to say, Brian, but clearly you have more to say, so have at it.
I don't know what you said, so just talk about the match.
No. So,
I don't care.
So Steiner goes to the Bulldog, but Booker T brings him down with an avalanche jackhammer, which I don't think was the idea. And then Rick hits a low blow, and Scott Steiner attacks with a DQ. DDP makes a save. We have another long, rambling promo. As the babyfaces are clearing the ring, Scott tries to just get thrown over the top rope, and something went haywire.
The bridge was too high.
He goes Adam's apple first into the rope. I screamed. He's Scott Steiner. He can't be killed, so he survived. And,
well, let's talk about this spot in this match that I don't think you talked about. When they both fell down...
The avalanche jackhammer, was that it?
That's what you got out of it?
Was it off the top? Was it off the ropes?
No.
Okay, that's something else.
Rick Steiner tried to lift him up, and they both just fell down.
Well, that sounds bad.
In a heap.
That sounds bad.
And the announcer had to explain this, and their explanation was, they both fell down.
Duly noted.
Well, they're not wrong.
Okay. See, I knew you didn't talk about that.
You can't lie to the fans, Brian.
And security breaks it up, and we get a tag match for later on. Because, when this match was over, I thought, you know what I want to see more of on this show? These two guys.
Yes.
But I will say that Booker being out there has added life to this show.
It is a huge change.
They've brought a star back, and now, shit feels a little more important.
Yes. And then, much like Dynamite today, they run down the rest of the show.
Good.
Yeah. Your main event is Jeff Jarrett versus Dusty Rhodes.
Bad. That's your main event?
That's what they said.
They just announced the main event.
That's what they said. They had a recap. Brian made a segment into the show. A recap of all of Dusty's appearances this year.
Did they really say that was the main event?
I'm
Dusty
sure
Rhodes and Jeff Jarrett?
I can go back and check.
So they announced the main event and then say another match is the main event.
Right.
I mean, I don't care. It's just really?
So they recap the Cruiserweight Tag Team tournament that's going on, including a match on Thunder where the Young Dragons beat Kwee Wee and Mike Sanders.
We got to start watching these Thunders. We're missing out on some action.
Now I know you've gone mad.
The Young Dragons versus Mike Sanders and Kwee Wee in a tournament match? How could that be bad?
Speaking of tournaments, AJ Styles, yes, that AJ Styles, and Air Paris versus Elix Skipper and his mystery partner.
So apparently Lance was looking for Air Paris.
Did you hear about this?
He's been found.
Oh, where's he?
He's on Twitter.
I actually pulled it up. He said something, where's Air Paris been? Frank Paris answers him back, proud dad of 2 beautiful daughters and the best husband I can be.
What a happy ending.
Yeah.
So forth and so on. Some guy, 2 posts later, he passed away in 2004.
Yeah, people thought he was dead.
Frank goes, I did? He goes on to say something about a car accident.
Welcome to the internet. Because people believe everything they read on the internet. They're doubting Air Paris.
Yes.
That is
Air
amazing.
Paris says he's alive? Bullshit. I read that he was dead.
The same guy that answered, he said he passed away in 2004. He goes, yeah, he passed away in a snowmobiling accident in the Colorado mountains. What?
It's amazingly specific.
We've gotten to the point where people argue with someone who's alive about whether or not they're dead.
No, sir. I'm very sad to inform you, you are dead.
Wow.
Well,
I thought I'd heard it all with that Cruz argument, but go ahead.
So Elix Skipper here is doing a Deion Sanders knockoff gimmick. He's prime time Elix Skipper. He steals Deion's promo from 1994 about "This is my house. I built this place." He teases his partner forever and then says it's Kid Romeo, who they did one video package for. So they come out. So this show, to recap, was March 5th, 2001. Drowning Pool released their song Bodies 2 months later. Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. I believe it's inspired by this match. Dive after
Dude,
dive after dive after dive after
There were
dive.
so many dives in this match that if the Young Bucks watched this match, they'd be like, what the fuck's with all the fucking
Somebody
dives?
grab a hold.
They're literally, I started writing down all these dives, and then I was like, then there were a bunch more dives. Like, there were so many dives in this match.
I wrote a nonstop barrage of dives from ring to floor and floor to floor. Impossible to track the falling bodies. And that's when the light bulb went off.
Literally, there may have been more dives in this match than the 30-minute match that we saw at Revolution on Saturday.
Entirely possible.
And there was a lot of dives in that match.
Yes.
AJ Styles is in there, and he is very athletic. He actually has not slowed down that much from 19 years ago, which is
Honestly,
a
no.
fucking miracle if you've watched the rest of his career.
Yes.
Where, like, and, you know, it's right, 2008, I thought that he was going to be dead in a few years when he was taking power bombs into guardrails,
Yes.
shit like that. Yeah. Now he's just working the exact same as he was 19 years ago. He's a much better worker now.
Yes.
I remember, I think it was on our show, actually, that AJ told the story about how, I guess he was in Japan and he would do matches with the Young Bucks, and they would come up with like 8 million things that he wanted to do. And he said, when I was young, I did that exact same thing. I just thought up of 8 million moves that I wanted to do. And now I look at these guys and I'm like, I can't remember all that shit. And so he said, just tell me as little as you need to, because I can't remember all of it. And I remember King of the Indies 2001, he was in it. And we showed up, and he was in the ring for like 4 hours before the show, going over all the stuff that he was going to do in his matches. Now, he probably sits with Tanahashi like Jericho did for 20 minutes, and they come up with their whole match. But anyway, he's doing all of these moves. He does a springboard high cross they call the flying squirrel.
See,
that's what he calls it, they said.
Okay, I missed that. I thought they were calling AJ himself the Flying Squirrel. And I was like, somebody, Undertaker needs to bring that nickname back right now.
He calls,
kick your ass, little flying squirrel.
He calls the move the flying squirrel.
Wow.
And they did a million moves, and then Kid Romeo hit a move, and he won. But they had no replay, so I don't know what the move was.
I believe it was a Northern Lights bomb.
They just cut to the back. It was very exciting.
Oh, it sure was.
It was ridiculous. Like, people are mad today about people killing the business. Holy fuck. This match in 2001, I can't believe there was it. This might have been what killed WCW. There's only 3 shows left. Maybe it was all these moves.
There were none left for anyone else.
Yes, WCW died because of this match. They're right.
Sean O'Hara cuts a promo backstage on Totally Buffed. They have a match that's Totally Buffed. By the way, it is now officially Totally Buffed. That's the name of the team.
Cool.
They have a match with Totally Buffed at the pay-per-view. He has a match with Lex Luger tonight.
Maybe it's not that they're strong, but that they're
Very shiny.
shiny.
They are. It's accurate.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally buffed.
Yeah. So he's going to fight tonight. He's going to make sure they get payback for jumping Palumbo last week. It's a very simple, basic promo.
It was so much better than his promos the last couple of weeks where he screamed.
Million, billion times better.
Just talking like a normal guy, saying, tonight, Lex, you're going to know what it's like to be in a real fight.
Yes.
Now, they did the match, and I can tell you for a fact, it was not a real fight.
But when he talked,
I believed it might be.
this felt like a guy who had been in a fight before and was going to bring another fight to somebody else.
Yes.
It was an unspeakable improvement over what he's been doing lately.
But in execution, they had a very fake match.
Sadly, they didn't have a match. Watching Lex Luger bump in 2001 is just painful.
Yes.
He tells the story of when he slept wrong on a plane basically and woke up paralyzed is what he says. And you watch him here, it's totally believable. This looks like a man on the verge of paralysis at any point.
Okay, so there's a spot in this match that I have to talk about.
Is it the metal elbow forearm?
No.
Is it the boot?
No, what happens
Okay.
is
We
all have a nominee.
Yes.
O'Hare does a flip and he sells his knee.
Yes.
Okay. Buff Bagwell then runs down with a chair, and the referee has to be distracted.
Right.
Okay. So, does Buff get in the ring and hit a chair shot and then bail? No. Buff gets in the ring and he starts hitting him with his chair. Bang, 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 bang. He's just fucking banging on him with this fucking chair. I'm like, how long does this referee have to be distracted? Bagwell's like building a house. Bang, 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 bang. The referee's still distracted. I'm like, dude, how long is this going to go on? Bang, bang, bang. Then he puts the chair on the ground. And he starts putting the guy's ankle in the chair.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, it's been 5 minutes.
The match is still going on.
So I'm like, fuck, just get the fuck, get it over with and get out of here so this ref doesn't have to look so stupid. So he starts to go to Pillmanize the leg, and then the ref just turns around and catches him.
Yeah. Yes.
I was so angry
I don't blame you.
that I had watched this fucking referee have to be distracted for 5 minutes when the end of the spot is he just catches the fucking guy anyway. He says, get out of the ring. So Bagwell gets out of the ring. So then 5 seconds later, this fucker gets distracted again and Buff gets back inside the ring.
Yes. This all happened.
Buff then accidentally hits Luger. The ref turns around, and there's Bagwell in the ring again. And he goes, hey, get out of the ring. I'm like, fuck you. Just fuck off. O'Hare hits the senton. He gets the pin. By this point, nothing was saving this match.
No.
This match was done. And then, after the finish, when O'Hare pins Luger, guess who gets back in the ring again?
Marcus back.
Bagwell. And he hits the blockbuster. Holy God, I wrote end already.
Yeah.
And then thankfully they did end.
Okay.
That sucked. That segment sucked.
This all started. Palumbo runs down to help out Sean O'Hare. They're in the corner, and Chuck runs over. He's at the feet of Sean O'Hare, and Luger is standing right there looking at him. And Palumbo, you can hear him, boot me. And Luger goes, buh? Palumbo reaches in, grabs Luger's boot.
Yes, this is all before the Buff Bagwell stuff.
Yes. And he takes Luger's foot and thrusts it into his own chest, and he falls backwards. And then Luger catches on. Oh, you want me to boot you? And he does it again. Unbelievable.
So Brian has talked about the end of the match. Craig has talked about the middle. I'm going to talk about something near the beginning.
Wait till I talk about Raw based on this.
So there's a spot where Luger gets whipped into the corner, and he comes off with the stainless steel forearm of death. And I think he actually legitimately rocked Sean O'Hare's head with a stainless steel forearm. Because O'Hare goes down. Lex stalls forever before making the cover. He is flexing and posing and killing all kinds of time. Eventually, he drops down to make this cover, and O'Hare can just barely roll over to one side to get his shoulder up. It's very strange. Then O'Hare comes down, grabs Lex right in front of the ref. There's the wackiness of the boot. They start brawling out there. Then Buff's in the ring for 20 minutes, building a house. Then Buff's back in the ring. O'Hare was... I wrote, what the hell was going on? Then O'Hare went to the senton. What was this shit, I asked. So as Buff is doing the blockbuster to O'Hare back in the ring, I thought, where's Chuck Palumbo? To which Tony asks, where's Chuck Palumbo? He was decked, apparently, on the outside. Brian, I described this segment as a catastrophe.
Hey, that's not a bad word.
Yeah.
You know, this you mentioned Chuck Palumbo because he was involved here. This is a minor pet peeve, but it's another... I was talking about Charlie Caruso earlier. Every time Charlie Caruso interviews Seth Rollins, he has to call her Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
It's a Charlie Brown joke.
Right.
From the fucking 70s. Peppermint Patty always called Charlie Brown Chuck. Like, it's maybe mildly funny one time.
Does that mean Murphy is Marcy?
He does
that
it
her name?
every single solitary time. He's a geek. He's supposed to be a main eventer, and he's calling her Chuck every time. An old Charlie Brown joke. Please stop. Thank you.
A limousine arrives, but as we would learn, it's not arriving at the building. It's arriving somewhere else. We cut inside.
Where did it arrive at?
Well, Brian?
Hospital.
The hospital.
Okay.
The hospital. Inside the limo, of all people, Sean Stasiak and Canyon.
What a duo.
They say they've arrived at the hospital. Canyon is there, he says. I'm here to pay Miss Jones a visit. And he actually explained, God bless him, I've paid for a camera crew. They're up there already to capture it all. Stasiak can't believe Canyon's going through with this, but he takes time to autograph a photo for Miss Jones, because everyone loves autographed celebrity photos. And Canyon's getting out of the car. Stasiak's laughing at a grand old time. There's a shot of the driver holding up his cell phone, and then the window closes. So I
don't know.
Was the driver recording the call or the conversation?
Maybe he was.
Which, come to think of it, Stasiak was there. Maybe that's his idea.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if this goes anywhere or not, but I was confused by this. And going back over, even more confused, because it never comes up again. Chavo does a promo, or he starts to cut a promo. He's talking about Shane Helms. I'm not scared of Shane Helms. He should be scared of me. He should be running from me. I've beaten him before. I'll leave him lying in blood at greed. That's all fine. And then it is to somewhere else in the back. We cut to Conan and Lance Storm mid-conversation, and Lance Storm says, quote, "Nice match on Thunderworth Awesome. If I knew you were that easy to beat, I would have wrestled you myself. It may have been faster than that. 4 dudes getting a brawl. Anyone get more than this than I did?"
Except for Canyon's horrendous tracksuit.
Thank you, Craig. Canyon had a horrendous tracksuit.
Conan, I'm sorry.
Probably both.
Okay.
May well have been both. Holy cow. Jeff Jarrett versus Dusty Rhodes is announced.
Boy.
Outcomes. What we
May I?
Please.
Have at it, Brian. The floor is yours.
I loved this segment with all my life.
Really?
Jeff Jarrett is doing this promo, and he calls out Dusty Rhodes. And a fake Dusty Rhodes come out. Some dude in a fat suit and a Dusty Rhodes mask. And this guy waddles down to the ring. And he gets in the ring, and him and Jarrett are going to have a match. And of course, it's a fake match. But like, I didn't know who it was going in. As soon as this fake Dusty got in the ring, I'm like, this fucking guy is doing a great job playing Dusty Rhodes. I wonder who this is. Then as soon as he locked up,
Yep.
I knew,
Absolutely.
all right, this guy's fucking been around a long time.
I'll say.
Then as soon as he got the eye poke, I knew it was Ric Flair. And Ric Flair, in a fat suit, pretending to be Dusty Rhodes, was still maybe the best worker on the entire show.
That's entirely possible.
He was so fucking good. So
Better than Lex and Sean O'Hara, that's for sure.
Jarrett lays him out, and Dustin runs down to make the save, and Flair, as Dusty, is just lying in the corner. And finally, Flair takes off the makeup, and you see it's Rick, and they start double teaming Dustin. And out comes the actual Dusty Rhodes. So Dusty Rhodes comes out, and he does this fiery comeback.
I'll say.
And he doesn't do anything,
Nope.
but everything is great. And he hits Flair, and he hits Jarrett, and they're ping-ponging all over the place. It's so fucking good. Flair rolls out of the ring. Flair is already out of his mind, but now he's out of his mind in a fat suit with fucking half of his face covered in makeup.
Yeah.
And he starts screaming, "I'm in charge of this place! I own this town! I own this building! And I own you, Dusty Rhodes!" Dusty cuts his promo and he says, "Listen, fat boy!" As soon as he says fat boy, he just fucking starts laughing. He cracks himself up because for the first time in his career, he got to call Rick a fat boy. He's howling and he says, "In Hollywood, there's megastars, there's stars, And then there's principles. But you, Ric Flair, at best, you are now an extra. He just short circuits. He cannot fucking believe that this motherfucker has the temerity to say that he is an extra. He's aghast. And so, of course, he hits the ring in his fat suit. Dusty beats his ass again. Flair's trying to roll out of the ring, but he's too fat. He can't get out. He can't get out of the ring. He's stuck. I'm dying. And then Dusty grabs the mic, and he basically challenges them to greed. It's going to be Dusty Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes against Ric Flair and Jeff Jarrett.
In 2001.
I'm like, my God, what a way to go out. What a way for this company to go out. With their greatest main event ever. I loved it. I loved this segment.
It's not the main event.
Whatever.
So,
maybe they'll announce it the main event anyway.
a couple of things.
Oh, come on. You better not say one.
These aren't even complaints. Ric Flair, for those of you who don't know, when he got into pro wrestling, his hero was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. His dream gimmick, he didn't want to be the Nature Boy at the time. He wanted to be Pretty Ricky Rhodes, Dusty's brother. 30 years later, he finally gets to be Dusty Rhodes. I bet he had the time of his life, and that's saying quite a bit for Ric Flair.
Oh, he sure did.
For Ric Flair. So during all this melee and brawling and whatever, the announcers keep talking about how, new owners, I hope you're watching this behavior. We're on like week 6 of the new owners coming in to save the day at any time. Spoiler, they don't show up. Dusty starts cutting this promo, and we talk about there's scripted promos, there's bullet points, and there's whatever this was. Dusty had no idea he was going to say when he get in the ring. He starts talking about Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Jarrett's daddy. He goes on a spiel about gas station condoms. And apparently Jerry picked the one that said, this one will make a fool. And that's how they got Jeff Jarrett. Now, someone here, it is not cool when Ric Flair threatened to, in his own words, Jap slap a fan.
Oh,
Don't say that, Rick. But yes, it's Jarrett and Flair versus the Roseses at Greed. Chavo Guerrero Jr. versus Shane Helms.
This was not as good.
So Shane, he got a new entrance with the Nitro Girls.
I couldn't even believe my eyes. They give this guy a brand new entrance. He's got all of the Nitro Girls out there. We haven't even seen them. I don't even know the last time we saw him dancing. He gets them for his entrance.
Yes.
He's got new music, the lights, the lasers, or whatever the fuck it was, live dancing women, comes down to the ring, does the job to Chavo. I was like, my God.
And one of the girls on the far right, completely out of sync the whole time.
They were not the best dancers.
No.
The world ever saw. So Shane Helms has new music. Now, I remember this music because I thought he did. He had music that was a rap song. He rapped about his own finishing move.
Wow.
The Vertebraker. It wasn't played here, which makes me think, do they have to edit out Vertebraker?
Maybe.
Someone else had the rights to that song?
Maybe he had the rights to it. Although he works for him now, so maybe they were like, we ain't paying you nothing for this song.
I guess
so
not.
We'll just replace it.
So, Kid Romeo and Primetime come out to attack Shane during the match. And that's when it hit me. This episode of Nitro was, in a lot of ways, similar to a contemporary episode of Monday Night Raw. There's a lot of talking. There's a reliance on legends. And there's interference everywhere. They're in the ring doing stuff. It's essentially a 3-on-1 match. The ref is watching. He doesn't care. Chavo wins the brainbuster.
Listen, I love Goldberg, and I have great respect for The Undertaker, but there's a big difference. And that is when Goldberg and Undertaker are doing their thing, with the exception of Goldberg's promos, because he's a really good promo, like, on this show, these legends overshadowed everyone else on the show. Like, they were better than everybody.
Yeah.
They were better promos than everybody by a ridiculous margin. The action, I mean, they were better than practically everybody. And nowadays, it's like, Undertaker shows up and he does a chokeslam with his jacket still on. Against AJ Styles, of all people. So, there's a big difference.
May I, Vince?
Why, yes, Mr. Proper.
We see Canyon. He
Oh,
enters.
God.
You want to?
Well, now, before that, real quick, this company has 1 month to live.
Okay,
They brought back Ricky Rockman
for spring break.
for the latest spring breakout in a segment that is sponsored by, in the most 2001 thing ever, America Online and 1-800-COLLECT.
Wow.
The rival of 1-800-ATT. Call
They
ATT.
were dueling collect call agencies. Now,
So-
Canyon.
Canyon enters Mrs. Jones's hospital room.
Yeah.
We see she's in a bed. She's got a neck brace on. And we casually see apparently somebody who's had a Harvey Dent-like accident
It's the Invisible Man.
because he's wrapped from his neck to the top of his head.
In Bandit, yes.
I don't know what Canyon's plan was, but he's threatening Mrs. Jones.
Does he look like a guy with a plan?
That's true.
They planted the cameraman.
Okay. Now, number one, how did they let the camera crew in? Number two, where were all the nurses? Because Mrs. Jones takes one look at him and starts screaming.
There was very lax security.
That's all true.
So he gets closer and closer. He's in minute 2 of his diatribe of how this is revenge for what the cat's done, and he's almost upon Mrs. Jones. I have no idea what he's going to do to this woman, physical or otherwise. I'm not sure.
But clearly up to no good.
And then, after about 3 minutes of him in the room, the cat, who had been in the hospital bed next to her,
Yeah.
has taken off all the bandages and jumps Canyon
And a shirt.
and his shirt and beats the snot out of him.
That happened.
Yes. So
Why didn't he jump Canyon when he walked in the room?
Maybe he had his headphones on.
So that all happened pretty much as you described. The thing is, like 3 times in this brawl, Canyon would take the cat out. He'd waffle him with a bedpan or something.
Yes.
And cat would be down, and Canyon would turn around and he'd threaten Miss Jones more, and then cat would attack him again, and they start over. This did it over and over again, like in a loop.
Yes.
The big finish, in a very literal sense, the cat grabbed some hospital equipment.
Defibrillators.
He defibrillated Canyon's ass. That is not a metaphor. That is not an exaggeration.
And by the way, this is exactly how Austin got his revenge on Mr. McMahon.
No, that was the enema.
But yeah, it was an enema.
Oh, it was Animal. I apologize. But he did hit him with a defibrillator at one point.
He
Well, he
he
hit him with a
shock him.
bedpan. There was a bedpan.
There's a
shot.
bedpan in that.
That was there too.
If you're listening to this segment and you're thinking this is like is it like a bad ripoff of the Austin McMahon segment, don't even. It's so
No.
much worse than that.
The other question I had is, she got hurt like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and apparently she's in a hospital that's within driving distance
Well-
to Huntsville, Alabama.
We don't know that for sure because none of these people were ever at the building.
Okay.
This could all have been remote. I thought of that too. It's weird, but it's not as bad as when Taker and Kane went to visit their parents at the cemetery.
Okay.
That was worse. It's weird. I did love in this, as there's one point as the cat is beating Canyon's ass, and every time he drives a knee into his head, he shouts, "I hate you, and my mama hates you, and my grandma hates you." I laughed.
That's all.
Well, I laughed because it was Canyon's line, the sincerity with which he described to Miss Jones, "It's nothing personal. You see, I hate him." That's exactly how he said it.
Wait a second.
And then when Shad
that's
attacks
personal.
him and he's screaming, "I hate you,"
Personal, I hate him.
Anyway,
God.
this was really, really dumb.
those were exact words, by the way.
Do we mention this company has 3 weeks to live?
Oh, come on. This was it was funny.
Hugh Morris versus Mike Awesome.
That's a fun match.
2 big giant men flying around throwing each other all over the place. It's an NXT match here.
This was a Johnny Ace match.
Yeah.
All Japan style.
Okay.
Just hit a bunch of moves, big dudes, fly all over.
That's all
crazy
happened.
shit.
For the 3rd time on the show, somebody runs in, attacks somebody right in front of the referee, and it's not a DQ. Now, I know in real life, they actually
Is this where
thought-
Tony Khan got it? I know he's a Nitro fan.
Possible. They thought, everyone believed Eric Bischoff was going to come in and save the day. But this show, in so many ways, felt like senioritis. Like, we have an obligation to the show, but we know it doesn't matter. Interfere. I don't care. Whatever. So Lance Storm attacks because there's one match we have not seen enough in WCW. It's Lance Storm versus Hugh Morris. Morris won with a moonsault. There you go. In the main event.
Well, then Lance put Hugh in the half crab. Conan ran down. So it appears we'll be getting Conan and Hugh Morris against Lance Storm and Mike Awesome.
Someone watched the Filthy Animals and the Misfits in action and thought, how great would it be to put them together?
Nostalgia. Bring back the
Nostalgia for the summer of last year. Winter of last year, actually. Steiners versus Booker T and DDP. First, Rick challenges Booker for the pay-per-view and Booker accepts. So they do a match.
Booker wants to make sure the title is on the line.
Got to have that U.S. title on the line.
Absolutely.
Well, great. We should not be complaining about that. Booker wants the U.S. title. That's awesome.
Hey, listen, the setup for these, I mean, we got Steiner versus DDP at the show. We now have Rick versus Booker. Now they're facing off against each other. They got time.
Yeah, I don't know when the show is.
They got an actual match. They beat on Booker forever. DDP got a hot tag. It was a very fine professional wrestling match.
Yes.
It was just very, very boring. They beat up Booker T for about 20 minutes. Page gets a hot tag, and I will say this, that his hot tag was hot. People are very much into Page's comeback. Eventually, Rick avoids 2 diamond cutters. Oh, the other key is...
the only problem with this was he makes his comeback, and Scott and Booker start brawling to the back, okay?
Yes.
So they're fighting backstage, which, by the way, they're the ones not wrestling each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so they start brawling to the back, and in the ring, Rick Steiner hits the Bulldog on DDP, okay? The Bulldog is his finisher.
Yes.
Whoever this fucking director is, it was more important to him to cut backstage than to show the count
Yes.
after Rick hits his Bulldog. So, you see Rick hit the Bulldog, DDP's down, the guy hit him with his finish, the ref drops, and all of a sudden there's Steiner and Booker brawling in the back. I'm like, what?
Yes.
And they cut back and like, the guys are up. So apparently he kicked out.
Yes. Page kicked out. And then Rick avoided 2 diamond cutters, but Page finally caught him with a 3rd for the win. And Page is celebrating in the crowd when Scott Steiner jumps him and the show goes off the air. Now, before we hit the music and go over these finishes, I looked up WCW Greed on Wikipedia just to check the date. It's March 18th, so we still have 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. I can't help but notice this first entry.
Well, I mean, there aren't many weeks left, dude, so.
There's only 3 weeks of the show.
Yes.
So under storylines.
Are you telling me that Greed is the night before the final Nitro?
I think so.
No, it would be the night before
Or
2 weeks.
2 weeks before. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah. The event featured wrestlers from pre-existing scripted feuds and storylines.
Cannot handle Wikipedia.
Wrestlers portrayed villains, heroes, or less distinguishable characters in scripted events.
Dude, they do that all the time for all these shows.
I haven't noticed that before.
Yes.
For WCW, it's very appropriate.
Yeah, do they have the fake attendance like they do for every other show?
5,030.
Wow.
5,030. All right, you ready for your music?
Brian, I am ready. The finishes on this show were DQ due to interference, clean pin after interference by 2 dudes and the use of a chair in a match with some unimaginably bad officiating, clean pin when one retired guy imitates and mocks another retired guy and lies down, pin after 2 guys interfere because apparently interference is just legal in WCW now, pin after interference because apparently interference is just legal in WCW now, and pin after low blow.
God, I just realized that in 3 weeks, we're not going to do the finishes report anymore.